LBC, leading Britain's conversation with Ask Boris. Mayor of London Boris Johnson takes your calls with Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Call 0845 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850. This is Ask Boris on LBC.
Good morning, everybody. It's 9 o'clock. It's Tuesday, the 6th of May. This is Boris Johnson bringing you your latest edition of Ask Boris on LBC. I'm here for the next 45 minutes taking your calls. Your chance to put any question that you like to me in my trusty helpmeet, Mr. Nick Ferrari over here. The numbers for you to get your questions on the air are 0845 6060 973 or email boris@lbc.co.uk. You can also watch Ask Boris in high definition on the website lbc.co.uk. Let's go straight to our first caller. It's David in Woking. David.
Morning, Boris. Morning, Nick.
Morning, David.
Just a quick question, Boris.
Yes.
Why does London Underground wish to close every single ticket office?
I tell you why, David. It's because we've got a wonderful new technology, which you may have noticed, called Oyster Card, which enables people to use automatic ticketing systems, and indeed we're going further than that, and we'll be using other forms of payment card. You'll be able to use your bank card, you'll be able to use your mobile phone pretty soon, and only 3% of our customers, our passengers, actually use ticket offices at the present time. And what we can't do, frankly, David, is go on with a fundamentally Victorian system of infrastructure when the opportunity is there to modernise, to automate, and to get London Underground staff where they need to be and where they want to be, which is helping the customers. So you as a punter, you as a passenger will have live human beings, more live human beings in most of the big stations, certainly, able to help you and to with any problems that you have. And no station, I repeat, no station will be unstaffed. And we're doing this at a time, obviously, when crime has come down already very considerably on the tube network. We've got the safest tube anywhere in Europe, and we think it's time to go forward. David?
Well, thank you for your answer, Mr. Johnson.
No, so
rather unfortunately, your figures are rather wrong. You're saying that only 3% of passengers use the booking office. The actual figure is 19%. The figure at 3% is actually the amount of transactions that start at booking office. If you look at the actual figures, they're still just under a fifth.
3% on fewer, actually, it's gone down now. Fewer than 3% of journeys require any kind of use of the ticket office. And
you're wrong. You're being disingenuous. But let's put it this way.
You're perfectly. I don't know with what authority you speak, but I speak with a full plenipotentiary wisdom here of Transport for London, who have briefed me on this matter, David, and I'd be very surprised if they've misled me. But
they haven't misled you. What they're actually saying is that 3% of ticket office journeys start at ticket office windows. That means they buy a ticket at the window. Actually, the amount of customers who use ticket office windows is just under a fifth. It's 19%. You can check that with Transport for London, of course, and while you're on air with Nick, you can check those figures. There's absolutely no problem with that.
Well, there seems to me the relevant statistic is that if you look at journeys every day in London, only 3% of them, or fewer than 3% of them, actually involve a ticket office, and that seems to me to be a relevant consideration when you're trying to work out how to modernise the tube and use our scarce resources effectively in order to improve service. And we can invest in new track, new trains, new signalling. We can have a air-conditioned tube. We can have a 24-hour tube. We can modernise the system, or we can spend a needless £50 million a year, at least, on keeping open, antiquated systems of running the network. And I think I know the best way forward. I think the advice I'm getting from TfL is right.
Well, what I can say is that if you're looking at saving £50 million a year, how much does one day's strike cost the people of London?
Well,
the figure is actually £50 million. It's the exact same.
Well, if I may, exactly, and one of the reasons, David, why I think, and I'm sure you agree with me, since you're so passionately against strikes.
I'm not against it.
I thought you were. Well, I thought by what you said just now that you were opposed to strikes.
I'm not opposed or for it.
You like strikes?
Not at all.
Right, okay. Here's what I propose that we should do. What I think we should do is we should have a very modest change in the law, and I'm sure you're aware of what I'm going to say now. We should have a very modest change in the law, which I think the government is actually actively considering now, to rule out the possibility of a small minority of the members of one particular union effectively holding the city to ransom. And I've said that many times before, and I think that's the way to go. And lots of other cities have protections against kind of strikes that you rightly deplore, or you were about to deplore, and I think we should go down that route.
I'm rather disappointed in this stock answer that we put out to the people of London, that we deplore strikes and we're going to legislate against it. This is a serious issue, and because of and because of a minority of politicians, they think to close the actions of the RMT, which is a democratic right. So we decide to change the law and not allow them that right, or at least get a minimum threshold.
Well, I think that's not a bad idea, actually. I do think it's not a bad idea. Well, I mean, in New York, as I'm sure
let the mayor speak.
As I'm sure you're aware, David, in New York, where it's traditionally the land of the free and the home of the brave, they actually have a prohibition on strike action by mass transit workers. We're very moderate in this country. We do allow people to withdraw their labour, even though it causes massive inconvenience to millions of people. And as you rightly say, it does cost business money. We have a very generous liberal approach. I think you could keep that generous liberal approach, but have a small change, which would mean that any union, any mass transit, any public transport union that wanted to go for a measure that would effectively paralyse the city would have to attract the interest, I mean not the support, but the interest of at least 50% of their members in the ballot before the strike could go ahead. I think that's pretty reasonable.
David, thank you. Just on this subject, the Financial Times reports this morning, Mr. Mayor, that a battle looms over plans for driverless tube trains. Two questions. How close are we to driverless tubes? And question two, how close are we to a battle?
Well, we're not... I hope very much we won't have...
There. Why were you waving at people?
I hope we won't have a... I was signalling that it would be lovely to have a cup of coffee.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. But more importantly than that,
more importantly than that, I hope very much we won't have a battle. I see no reason for us to have a battle, because this is something that actually offers the opportunity for more jobs. I don't know, my last caller, David, I think may have represented one of the... Listening to him, it sounded to me like he possibly... came from one of the trades unions involved, and that's
how will it mean more jobs?
It's great news, because what you do is, if you can get more trains through the system. In Paris, they have automated trains.
Yes, the 85 is the longest gap.
Yes, that's the point.
Yes.
Now,
this is the narrowest gap between trains on a Paris line.
Now. You and I can work it out, Nick. If you can shorten the distance, but the time lag between your trains arriving, you can get more trains through the tunnels. If you can get more trains through the tunnels, you have more staff on the trains. And obviously,
there aren't staff on the trains. They're driverless.
Okay, that's the key point. There will be, because what they won't be is old-fashioned drivers stuck in the cab and not able to look after the public.
DLR.
Don't forget, a tube train is a huge thing. It carries about 1,000 people, a full tube train, possibly more now, because we've got the new S-Stock stuff, S-Stock vehicles. You're going to need somebody on that train to have a
train captain or marshal.
Have a train marshal, a train captain. Somebody's going to have a care to the passengers. Someone falls ill. Suppose, which I very much hope doesn't happen, suppose we have to, a train gets delayed in a tunnel. Right. People need to be walked off.
So it's like the DLR in a way.
Exactly. So actually, I think sensible people who make London Underground work, and listening to this conversation, will think, actually, there's going to be more jobs, high-quality jobs, interesting, fun jobs, actually interacting with the public, and not just stuck sitting in a cab, and really on some of the lines now, because of the automated system, all they have to do is pretty much close the doors and push the button to go. And
that's all the driver does.
On some lines, and they don't need to do that anymore in Paris. We need to move forward.
But if you've got a man or woman sitting at the front of the train, driving it, you're only going to put one train captain or marshal on. You're not going to have two train captains. So how can it mean more jobs?
Because you have more trains.
Because there'll be more trains.
More trains. You missed that point. Yeah, exactly, because you have more trains coming through the tunnels, because you've speeded up the system, because you've automated it.
Okay, so there will be more trains, more jobs.
Of course.
A promise.
Of course. Because
so why are people talking about a battle? You'd have thought they'd be ecstatic. They'd be dancing in the streets.
I mean, that's the spirit, Nick. I mean, why can't we have a bit more dancing in the streets? We've got this thing called Big Dance coming up, organised by my brilliant Deputy Mayor for Culture, Munira Mirza. Big Dance. We should have the entire leadership of the RMT doing a big dance in honour of the
on the subject of the RMT, while you avail yourself of some coffee, and I'm sorry it wasn't there when you came in. Earlier this morning, I was speaking to Acting General Secretary of the RMT, Mick Cash, and he left this message for you.
Oh, right. Boris has interfered in this dispute before. He sabotaged the discussions last week. I hope he allows us to get on with trying to sort out a tube network. I'd like to know if he's really committed to a publicly funded and a properly funded tube network, because he broke his promise to keep every booking office open, and that has kept like the sword of Damocles over all the discussions that have been going on. And I wish he'd commit himself to allowing us to get on and do the job and commit proper funding.
And what is the sabotage you claim that he wrought on the talks?
Well, the condition that was put in at the last minute last week to cancel all action.
And this is cancellation rather than suspension. Are you seeking to crush the RMT?
No, look, I don't seek to crush anybody. I'm a benign sort of guy, Nick, but I think that the actions of the RMT last week have been shown not to be sensible, because after all, their members went out. Some of them did anyway, actually fewer than before. They lost pay. They haven't really achieved very much, because we're going to go ahead, or indeed anything, because we're going to go ahead with the programme of reform. And I just say to Mick, quite sincerely, one thing that I was at one with his predecessor, Bob Crow, or his putative predecessor, Bob Crow, and with him, is in getting more investment for the tube. I don't think he could seriously fault us for what we have done over the last 6 years.
Did you demand
There's been a massive...
Is that true?
No, the answer is no, absolutely not. No, I don't know. No, it doesn't ring any bells to me at all. We have had a massive splurge of investment in the tube, and we're going to continue to drive that forward. And look at what we're achieving. We've got the first extension of the tube for decades now going on at the Northern Line. We're proceeding with automation, with a 24-hour tube, with air conditioning on a huge number of the trains. We're going to have a new tube for London, and a better designed tube is going out for tender by 2016. So there's a lot to look forward to for all members of London Underground staff.
Let's take one more call before we give everyone a travel update. I think you have note of our next call.
I do. Simon, forgive me. We've got Jonathan in King's Cross.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning, Jonathan.
Good morning. Today at 2 p.m. there's going to be a mass demonstration by taxi drivers at the Shard.
Right.
The taxi trade has lost complete faith in TfL.
Oh, no.
Perversely, the minicab trade has lost complete faith in TfL.
My God, we've got everybody against us.
There's no one got any faith.
No.
It's a faithless world.
It's a faithless world.
You sat in a meeting with a representative from the taxi trade with the head of enforcement.
Yes.
The taxi trade proved to you that Uber is working on a meter. You told the head of enforcement to stop it and sort it. He's ignored you. Do you actually run TfL, or are they out of control?
Well, what we're doing with Uber is we are looking at how it works, and we've so far. I have to tell you, this is Uber, by the way, for listeners who don't understand what Uber is. Uber is some American company that wants to come here and is already trying to establish itself, and is basically it's a bit like Halo, except somehow better or different from Halo in some way that I don't frankly understand at the moment. We are looking at it. I want to assure Jonathan in King's Cross we are not yet in a position to give a final verdict on Uber, but I would urge everybody to take a London taxi. There you go. Take a London taxi. I haven't taken one for ages myself, Jonathan. I'm feeling guilty. I cycle everywhere. Take a London taxi. They're a wonderful experience. We love the taxi trade.
Jonathan, this is a demonstration between 2 and 6 outside the Shard. Are you comforted by what you've heard from the Mayor?
No, not at all. Now, listen, let me tell you something, Boris. Your instructions to the head of enforcement is they're working off of a meter. By the way, on average, they're 23%.
What's your beef about Uber? Jonathan, why don't you tell the public what your beef is against Uber?
They're 23% on average more expensive than licensed London taxis.
Right.
They're working off of a meter, which TfL is allowing, which is illegal, which means they really, in reality, have no insurance, because Article 11 of the Private Hire Act states that no private hire vehicle should work off of a meter in any form whatsoever.
Let's get a quick response.
Right. Well, okay.
What do you see as the benefit of Uber?
I frankly, I'm agnostic on this thing. I mean, I understand.
Well, tell me all about it. Give us the depth of your knowledge of Uber.
My depth of my knowledge is, I'm afraid, I've never used an Uber taxi, and I'm as I said to Jonathan just now. I think I'd urge people to use London taxis, but we have to obey the law, Jonathan, and we have to look at whether people are in conformity with the Act in the way that you've mentioned or not, and clearly that is going on at the moment. I think there's a bit of sort of theological discussion about what is a taximeter and what isn't a taximeter, because the argument is that I think if you have the bit of the fare being calculated as you travel, even if it's by some computer in California, that is effectively still a taximeter in the car, and it therefore corresponds to the definition of a London taxi, and is not a minicab. That's the argument about Uber.
Before we disappear Uber the exhaust pipe over all of this, can I, while you said telling the whole of London that you delight on riding your bicycle, I understand that you've been spotted behind the wheel of a chauffeur-driven BMW, complete with number plate reading MAY10R, which obviously would look like Mare. That alone is worth £20,000. You were travelling in a westerly direction, I think, easterly direction from Heathrow to Westminster on the M4 in tinted glass in this BMW.
Well, tinted glass. I think a tinted glass is the giveaway in that particular story, because it's complete nonsense. I've no idea where they got that.
Have you ever travelled in a black BMW? With the number plate M-A-Y.
No, certainly not a black BMW with the number M-A-Y.
Do you own the number plate M-A-Y?
No, of course not.
Do you have any knowledge of the number plate?
No, I have not a clue.
Well, where's this story come from?
I think it's just it's a miracle. It's a miracle. It's appeared by sort of parthenogenesis. It's just sprouted divinely in the head of some journalist, and he couldn't get rid of it. The only way to get rid of his demons was to write it.
So this is complete fabrication.
It's complete fabrication.
You drive an old people carrier of some sort.
I do. So I don't know where they got that
and you don't have MAY10R?
No. I mean, absolutely not, no.
What do you mean? You say no, and then you say, well,
I thought it might be suitable for other people, but not me.
Is it? Right, other calls. On we go.
Yes. Are we going to David? No, we've had David in Abergrove. No, we haven't had David. We had David in Abergrove.
You like David? I thought
absolutely. David?
Good morning, Boris.
Good morning, sir.
Just to say, in both the Independent newspaper and the Sunday Mail, it has said that David Cameron, our Prime Minister, has now said that a former Prime Minister, Tony Blair's Chilcot inquiry into the Iraq War, should now be published.
I agree completely. I passionately agree with that.
And if so, what will you do about it?
Well, if I had it, I'd publish it, but I don't know. Unfortunately, it's not available to me. I mean, I think it's, this is the Iraq War is more than 10 years old now. It's 2003, the whole disaster began. We all remember the circumstances, and somebody like me who basically had good faith about what the British government was telling us, who thought that there must be a plan to deal with the aftermath in Iraq. I just could not believe it as things unfolded in the way that they did, and I feel guilty, obviously, because I voted for the wretched thing. I would love to know more about it, and I would love to see this report published, and I'd like to understand more deeply on what basis a Prime Minister who, at that time, commanded so much trust, was able to persuade Parliament and the country and me to go for war in Iraq with absolutely catastrophic consequences.
Would you have voted had you known that that the evidence was given to you with lies?
I certainly would have thought very seriously. I remember thinking, I'll be absolutely honest with you, David, I thought, the more I listened to the debate back in 2003, I got a very clear memory of it. I started to think that it probably was a load of nonsense. And I can remember thinking this poor Hans Blix, if you remember, who was the UN inspector who was going around in Iraq fossicking for weapons of mass destruction. It was pretty obvious to me after a while that this whole thing was nonsense. He wasn't going to find anything that would convict Saddam Hussein of possessing WMD. And so I thought, well, look, what is the basis on which we are doing this? Saddam Hussein clearly doesn't present, and this is nonsense, nonsense about a 45-minute threat to British bases in Cyprus or whatever. Saddam Hussein doesn't present a threat to us in that sense. But I have to confess to you, I thought, well, is there nonetheless a case for removing a man who I'm assured by loads of Iraqis, because I was at the time, I remember hearing people say, you've got to get rid of this guy. He's an evil monster. They said nothing that follows the regime of Saddam Hussein can conceivably be worse. And I'm afraid in that respect, I listened to the government and I thought, well, that must be right. They're Pentagon, HMG, they must have thought this thing through. They must have a plan. And that was a total error. And it was quite clear that the agenda was very, very feebly thought through, and it was a disaster. So I would like to know. I would like to know the arguments that were being made, what they seriously thought was going to happen after the war.
So if Chilcot points to a corruption within the government, you'd be asking for a criminal investigation?
Well, if it depends what Chilcot says, but I think to be honest with you, I think it'd be hard to mount criminal charges, but I think you'd have to show some sort of malfeasance in public office, which I think would be very difficult to prove. I think what we want to know as the public, and what I want to know as a former MP, is on what basis was this case made to us? What was the real nature of the evidence? What were the real conversations going on between London and Washington about the motives for this thing? I want to understand the basis and the background.
Quick last point for you, David, quick as you can.
Well, yes, I would just like to say, if it's shown by Chilcot that there were a pack of lies told and 600,000 people died as a result, there should be and must be a criminal investigation.
David,
I'm think there will undoubtedly be people who continue to try to bring Tony Blair to justice in one way or another. I think it unlikely that they will succeed.
But we need this inquiry, don't we?
We certainly need to have the report published.
And does he need bringing to justice?
Well, no. I'd like to see the report published. There will be plenty of arguments you can make about bringing all kinds of people to justice. I happen to think that in the case of Tony Blair, it will be quite difficult to secure a conviction. He's a very eel-like customer. I think it'd be very unlikely that you'd get him.
Your LBC colleague Nick Clegg has backed a report which suggests that government should consider the legalisation of cannabis. Boris Johnson, would you agree with that?
I've got a bit, tough, hard line on this. Nick, I think the trouble is that you look at places that have done it, like Portugal, or Amsterdam, certainly. I think they've tried an experiment in Portugal. Amsterdam, certainly. They're starting to row back a bit because they've seen that the ambient effect of the legalisation of drugs is that, A, there's the gateway effect. You people who get into cannabis move up into other drugs, and B, there's a general sort of coarsening of the environment around the doop-houses or whatever they're called, and all sorts of other stuff starts to go on. It becomes a little bit graffiti-ridden, a little bit sleaze, a little bit crime-ridden, and I'm not certain that's what I want for London. So I think, if cannabis use is actually falling. Cannabis use is falling now. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't happen to think that drugs are a wonderful thing for society. I'm in the sort of drugs are bad camp, and I'd leave things pretty much as they are.
We move on to other calls.
Can we have Danny in Dartford?
Hi there, Boris. When the coalition government came in, I think it might have been an autumn statement, 2010 or whatever. Chancellor Osborne announced that he was going to create or invest in creating new river crossings east of Blackwall Tunnel, i.e. one at Silvertown, and I can't remember the other one. What's happening with it?
They're all there. We've got that. Thank you, Danny. They're going ahead, and well, don't forget there's the extra Dartford crossing that I'm sure you know about. There's the Silvertown Tunnel will be in by about 2020. Which will be a wonderful news for Mr. Ferrari here.
Very exciting.
Because that will take a lot of the pressure off the Blackwall Tunnel. A lot of the congestion will go off that, and. Danny, we're going to go on with several other river crossings east of Tower Bridge. I believe that London is moving east. The centre of gravity of the city is moving in that direction. Huge job creation. Look at the job growth figures. Loads of them happening now in East London. Not so much even in the central activity in Westminster and other regions. We need to build on that, and we need to create the river crossings. I speak as somebody who's, and I'm sure that loads of listeners will agree with this. When you want to cross north-south or south-north at peak times in East London, it is crazy. We've got to get on and build more river crossings. The Thames Gateway Bridge, which is a project I originally had on my desk, was just environmentally too destructive, and we're certain we can do much better projects.
Quick response from you, Danny.
I was just going to say, you say there's going to be one by 2020 at Silvertown, and furthermore, essentially in the next in the 20s, in the next decade coming on? Right,
yes, we need several more, in my view.
Yeah,
and
yes,
so
definitely.
We need several more, and the smart thing to do, Danny, is to build loads more, because that way no individual one of them becomes a massive bottleneck or rat run, if you see what I mean. So you take the pressure off all of them.
All right.
Johnny, thanks, Danny. We're going now to Johnny in Brixton.
Johnny, go ahead. You're on the radio. Speak.
Yeah, morning. Sunday, 5 o'clock, sunny afternoon, my estate, a 17-year-old boy was stabbed to death by a gang of youths. I just want to ask the mayor, has his mentoring scheme worked out? And by the way, this was all over a bicycle. Well, obviously, everybody's thoughts are with the family of the boy concerned. You mentioned the 15-year-old boy there, Johnny, and one death in London is too many. One death of a young person is too many.
The mentoring scheme as well.
But I would just 2 points quickly. The numbers of teenage deaths are obviously well down on where they were when I was elected. I think I think tragically that was the third this year is my information.
We'll check on that, Mr. Mayor.
I'm fairly certain that's right. And they were running at about 30 a year when I was elected.
But to the mentoring scheme,
and I believe mentoring has played a very, very valuable part in trying to offer diversions, trying to help some of the most vulnerable kids. And I believe in it. I believe in it passionately, and continue to support it. And one of the things, in addition to mentoring, or one of the ways we organise the mentoring is with what you call the multi-agency support hubs in local councils, which know which are the problem families, where the kids are that are most vulnerable to this kind of disaster.
Well,
we're using all our efforts to try and continue to tackle the problem.
We wish you well on that work. Now, on the subject of work, I've got another of your LBC colleagues here. This is, of course, Ken Livingstone, who's concerned about just how hard you are working at being mayor. He's left you a message.
Hi, Boris. It's Ken here. I was really interested to see that you're now working from home on Friday. I used to do that occasionally when we couldn't get a babysitter, but I used to take a big wad of stuff home and brought it in on Monday morning. I mean, all your staff tell me they don't see you coming with a big load of work on Monday morning. Tell me, all the problems that we got in London, the housing crisis, the air quality, do you really think it's justified taking all that time off? I mean, I was just surprised when we had that picture of you in the Telegraph standing in front of the desk after you've been mayor for 5 years. You hadn't even moved the little pot of pen and pencils that I used to keep there. Do you do the day job?
Well, I'm delighted to say that since I managed to evict the idle, useless reprobate and Ken Livingstone from his position in London, where he was doing not very much, we have greatly improved the supply of housing,
right,
which he mentioned.
Do you work from home on a Friday?
I work all the hours God gives, I can tell you, and I have absolutely no plans to work on Friday.
Do you work from home on a Friday? It's not against the law, by the way, should you so desire. Do you work from home on a Friday?
I do not. I come in, I work unbelievably hard, and you look at all the things that we've done.
Well, where's Ken Livingstone got this idea from? Because this has been bouncing around.
Because I am sometimes out of the office on a Friday, which is perfectly.
So you
legitimate.
sometimes don't go in on a Friday.
Yeah, I sometimes don't go in, but that's because for instance, what was I doing?
Where were you last Friday? Without wishing to sound like your father, where were you last? Were you at the office last Friday?
What was I doing last Friday? Somebody tell me what I was doing last Friday. My mind's gone a complete blank.
Well, all right. While we arrange that, I was
doing something very, very important for the people of London.
RNLI?
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I think I talked to you.
I do recall it now.
What an absurd question.
Now, just lastly...
How can you ask me what I was doing last Friday?
I'm not getting aggressive.
How can you ask me what I was doing last Friday when, in fact, you and I had a long and detailed conversation about promoting the
Have
work
you rearranged
of the
this
Royal
seems to be the other thing that's worrying Ken Livingstone. You haven't rearranged his desk.
Not only that, we haven't even finished his vast stocks of Chateauneuf-du-Pape that we continue to enjoy.
Rid of all of that.
The former mayor used to drink such prodigious quantities of wine that we at the taxpayers' expense, that we still have some of it left over. And I just want to get other serious points. We have built more homes than he did so far over this mayoralty than he did over his. Right. Far more. You're seeing record house building going on in London now, even though I actually inherited a catastrophic economic situation. We've got a massive housing boom going. As for air quality, I would just remind the former Newt that we have reduced NOx by 20%, and PM10s and PM2.5s are down 15%. CO2 I think is down about 20% on 2001 level. So I don't think he's got a leg to stand on.
So Ken Livingstone is a lush Newt, and Tony Blair is eel-like.
Well,
I don't know if Wendy Deng would agree. Ask more from Ask Boris in a moment. 9:32 news here.
I mean, you can have some very nice eels. I don't want to be rude to the former Prime Minister. You can have some. I felt guilty saying as soon as they said that he can be. I mean, he's a very, very adept and agile lawyer, and I think that our caller who thought that he was going to be imprisoned for what he did in Iraq is his heart's in the right place.
9:32 news on LBC.
Good morning, I'm Lisa Aziz. London Mayor Boris Johnson's told LBC introducing driverless trains on London Underground would create more jobs.
There's going to be more jobs, high-quality jobs, interesting, fun jobs, actually interacting with the public, and not just stuck sitting in a cab.
He says modernisation of the tube is essential and that ticket office closures will go ahead despite recent strike action by the RMT union. Police have been investigating a possible sighting in southwest London of an armed robber known as the Skullcracker. Michael Wheatley went on the run from an open prison in Kent on Saturday. Officers were called to an address in Twickenham last night, but there was no sign of him. Rolf Harris has arrived at court where he's due to stand trial over a string of indecent assaults. The 84-year-old is accused of assaulting 4 girls. Jury selection at Southwark Crown Court is expected to begin today. LBC can reveal that more than 450 nuns are being used by the Metropolitan Police to help catch organised crime gangs. In the last year, nuns have helped to identify more than 250 victims of exploitation, and 2 criminal gangs have been prosecuted. At 9:15, the FTSE was down 6 at 68.17. And LBC weather. Rain this morning will soon clear to leave a mostly dry day with sunny spells for London and the south east. Some showers may develop through this afternoon. Highs today of 18 degrees. Rain at first, then sunny spells across most of England, Wales, Northern Ireland and Scotland. More scattered showers later, particularly for the far southwest. LBC News Time, it's 9:34.
I'm Andy McCall in the LBC Travel Centre. The planned 3-day strike action by members of the RMT on the tube that's being suspended, but still disruption on southern trains. They can't run between Shepherd's Bush and Milton Keynes. In London, all the approaches to Vauxhall Cross looking absolutely stacked solid from what I can see on the cameras. We're still chasing, see what is the matter there. Warwickshire, the M40 going north, reports of 2 lanes blocked, 15 to 16. That's up past Longbridge Island and Warwick, up towards Henley and Arden, with reports of vehicles that shed its load. Staffordshire, the A38 still blocked going south between the Orrus turn, the A513 and Street Hay, with congestion back towards the Branston interchange. At Newbridge and Caerphilly, the A4048 is still shut between the Pentwyn Mower roundabout and Newbridge Road after a serious accident. M4 going east through Newport, still delays from junctions 30 towards the Bringlass tunnels after an accident earlier on. M60 in Manchester anti-clockwise at junction 15. Congestion after an accident there earlier, and delays still back towards junction 22 at Rishworth Moor. And in Lancashire, the M65 has queues junction 2 to 4, Clayton Brook and Darwin after an accident. mentioned earlier. Keeping you moving. Next travel updates is in 15 minutes.
LBC Travel.
With GoToMeeting. Don't get derailed. Hold your meeting online.
This is Ask Boris on LBC.
And we're going to ask Boris an email from Phil in Mitcham.
Phil,
Mr. Mayor.
I thought we were going to Chantal.
No, it's an email first.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, please ban commuters eating hot, smelly food on trains, tubes and buses.
Right.
Like many travellers, I'm sick of people sitting next to or near me on public transport, stinking the place out with Kentucky Fried Chicken, McDonald's, Burger King, fish and chips with vinegar sauce, etc., etc., etc. Change it now, please, please, please.
Well, Phil, we have thought of that, and we have lots of posters up, as you'll know, saying be considerate to your fellow passengers, don't eat smelly food.
I've never seen one of those signs.
Oh, they
Where are they?
They used to be up, actually. Maybe they've gone there. Maybe we got some new campaign.
You just told me they were up. Are they up or are they not up?
Well, I don't know. There may be some up still left up. But there used to be a campaign saying don't eat smelly food, don't put your feet on the seats, that kind of thing. Give up your seat to somebody who needs it. If there's something we can do to revive people's sensibilities about that, some of their sensitivities to others, then we will do. I think the difficult, Phil, if we ban food on public transport, what happens is you'll get terrible cases of kids arriving in school and fainting because they haven't been able to eat, and all that sort of stuff, or you, Nick, or me being absolutely sort of unable.
I think I could survive a train journey. What we need are those great messages we had for 2012 when I used to hear you on the show. Hi, folks, Boris here. For God's sake, get out of the city now.
Smelly. That was extremely successful.
Yes, you certainly drove everyone out of the city. That was an unqualified success.
It was a triumph.
We move on.
Thank you so much. Can we go to Chantal in Catford, please?
Good morning. Hi. I'm fully aware that there is a housing crisis in London.
Yeah.
I obviously live in London, and after 7 years I've been on a housing list, I was kicked off, although I had 3 disabled children.
Right.
My question is, because I have to private rent because of that, there's all these new rules and regulations put in place for the landlord. However, in my case, my landlord is an absolute atrocious. In the 4 years I've been there, I've never had a gas safety certificate. Contacting him if there's any problems, he never gets back to me.
Right.
My safety and my children's safety, but nowhere I go, I've been to environmental health.
Now you're in Lewisham, right? Is that?
Yes, I am.
Lewisham Borough, yeah. Catford.
Yeah.
You really, Chantal, you really need to be in touch immediately with your council housing department and indeed with your MP and local councillors and try and get that sorted out.
Okay. Let me make sure we make that. It's a little bit out of the mayor's remit.
But no, I mean, but I'm sure my people will have listened to that. My housing team will have listened to that, and they'll be following it up.
Stay on the line. We'll take your details. We'll make sure Lewisham hears about it. We'll keep the mayor's office in the loop, as they say.
Can we go to Alan in Loughton?
Alan, go ahead.
Good morning.
Yes, good
morning.
Sir.
I'd like to first of all ask you a quick question. You are responsible for a publication about the state of the environment in London.
Right. Which one's that? Forgive me. Which publication is that? I should know, but
it's the one you produce every year that gets sent to everybody.
The safety environment.
Yes. Well, whatever the actual title is.
What's it about? What's your question about, Alan?
It's about air quality.
Yes.
How much in that document you suggested that you're supportive of. Why is it that your organisations, or one of the organisations you're in control of, TfL,
yes,
has reduced the grants to local authorities who are monitoring air pollution? Now, you'll be aware that EU is about to impose several million euro fines on the UK, largely as a result of air pollution in London.
Yeah.
So, are you going to reinstate those grants and ring-fence the TfL to local environmental health departments?
I understand, Alan. Well, actually, I think what you may be talking about is the LIPS funding that we give to local authorities. And as far as I know, actually, we're giving more LIPS funding now than ever before. And on the what TfL is doing to improve air quality, I think the record is extremely good and is about to take a kind of hyper leap forward, because we've set a deadline for 2018 by which all taxis in London will have to be, or rather all new taxis, all taxi drivers listening to all new taxis will have to be zero tailpipe emissions. That will make a dramatic improvement. If you've got a taxi at the moment, that doesn't matter, but obviously if you're thinking of buying a taxi in the run-up to 2018, you post-2018 you can't buy one that will not conform with these provisions. We've got huge numbers now of low emission buses. We're investing in more hybrid buses. The new bus that you see on the streets is one of the cleanest in the world, and the results are showing up in some of the data, because we are seeing reductions in emissions of NOx and of dust. I think, as everybody knows, that one of the problems has been that there was a move to diesel from petrol, because that was thought to be the carbon efficient way of going. The trouble is that has produced lots more particulates that are very polluting and cause asthma in children and so on, and that is a problem. And we've unquestionably got a problem with our air quality. We need to deal with it. And I've sometimes been accused of complacency, but I am absolutely zealous and militant about air quality, because I breathe it in every day. I stand on my bike, behind buses, behind taxis, personally monitoring the air quality. I am absolutely determined to have really wonderful, fresh, clean air in London, and I'm also convinced that with the technological changes that we're bringing in, we'll be able to do it.
We've only got a couple of minutes left. I must get some more emails in. This one comes from Lenny at Tower Hill. What does the Mayor say about the latest police corruption story? This, if you're not aware, Mr. Ware, staff at Scotland Yard have been caught assisting criminals making racist comments online, selling confidential details. An investigation has found data protection rules were breached an astonishing 300 times in 5 years.
Yes, I mean, I've just been made aware of this story. I think there was it's sort of broken this morning, if I understand it correctly. I really can't say much about it. It seems to be a data protection story that relates to police activities over a period of 5 years. I'm obviously where there are charges that we can make, where there are prosecutions we can bring, and if individual officers are found to have broken the law, of course, we will get to the bottom of it.
All right, okay. This comes in from.
But I just I think that it is important to strike a note of balance. I mean, I haven't, as I say, seen the story, but okay. I think on the whole the police are doing a pretty good job at the moment.
All right, I've only got 2 minutes left. David in the city says, what is Boris's view of the AstraZeneca Pfizer deal? If he was PM, would he let it go ahead?
I would want to make sure that I'm a free market man. I believe in principle that you should, if people are, we should have an open system of markets in this country. But when I look at something like AstraZeneca, and I look at a organisation of that scale, of its relative importance to the UK economy, the sheer percentage of its money that goes into R&D, I think it is of great importance to Britain. So I don't think politicians can be entirely aloof from this, and I think it would be very important to establish, and so I mean, I'm not taking a position against the deal necessarily, but it'd be very important to establish that Pfizer is genuinely committed to R&D in this country.
How would you do?
And well, that's the test, and that it won't in any way damage what is the incredible success, particularly of London and the South East. If you look at what we launched recently with Med City, in dominating the European scene in life sciences and biotechnology. That is a fantastic opportunity for this country. It'd be a great shame, I think, if that were to be lost. I want to stress, I have no reason to think that Pfizer don't have the best possible intentions. But if I were, the question was, what would I do? I would really want to check that out.
You and I have now been through
very hard.
3/4 of an hour, and I haven't talked to you about you becoming Prime Minister.
Well, exactly.
But I can't.
Quite rightly.
I can't.
Since it's not going to happen.
Whatever?
Yeah, but of course not. And I've got a job as.
Well, this is the survey, isn't it? That more than half of Londoners think you couldn't carry out the two jobs that have been floated, i.e., London Mayor and MP.
Well, and let me repeat the answer that I give every time we have this conversation, Nick, which is I'm committed to serving Londoners, and
so you wouldn't try and run two jobs together.
I want to get on and
Boris
do
two
this
jobs
job,
Johnson. No,
do this job to the best of my.
So it will
my
never
limited
be Boris
abilities.
two jobs Johnson.
I'm very proud of what we've achieved in London, but there is a lot more to do.
So it will never be Boris two jobs Johnson.
It will certainly. I think that as I never tire of saying, the chances of me being Prime Minister.
No, that's not quite the question.
About as big as the chances of me being locked in a disused fridge, interred in a, what is it?
It used to be being hit by a frisbee thrown by someone from outer space.
That's right.
But what about Boris two jobs Johnson?
Look, I'm very. The job of Mayor of London.
No, you're not going to answer.
Is the job of Mayor of London is the best in British politics, and only a fool would want to.
Looks like a very exciting job.
Give it up.
Lastly, last week Arnold Schwarzenegger spoke to LBC about his new film Sabotage. He shared his thoughts on you.
Oh God!
I think he's terrific. He's again, from an environmental point of view, he's terrific. He is a great conservative. He's a great leader. He's interested in making business grow, and he has a great personality.
Well, there you go. It's very, very kind of the Governator, the former Terminator. There was a terrible moment when he's been very. I get on very well with Arnold Schwarzenegger. There was a terrible moment when he saw me trying to give a speech before, and he came over the loudspeaker because his mic was. The guy is fumbling all over the place. He can't speak English. So I'm delighted. I'm glad that I'm doing better. I'm doing a bit better in his eyes these days. Anyway.
Boris will be back in a few weeks' time. Thank you for appearing on Ask Boris here on LBC, where travel is next.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
With Hampton by Hilton. From a great night's sleep to the perfect hearty breakfast.
With BMW Economics, the BMW 318D M Sport Saloon includes 18-inch alloy wheels, Dakota leather sports seats, and M